I'm delighted to welcome today the very, very lovely Sally J. Roberts, who is based in Brighton in the UK. Welcome, Sally.
Oh, hi, Elaine.
Lovely to see you again. We met some years ago when you were going through a dreadful, dreadful time with Neon, your son, and his cancer diagnosis and treatment. And I'm really pleased to hear that everything's now tickety-boo, so to speak. And Neon is approaching 16 now. I can't believe time's gone so quickly.
I know, bless him. He's quite the teenager, and yeah, he's a wonderful boy.
It's not just one, is it? You had twins, Neon and Electra.
Yes, yes, and Electra, she's just yeah, she's a firecracker. She lives up to her name. She's just wonderful.
Marvelous. Okay, so let's talk about your story, Sally, because 2012 was it? You had all this with Neon's diagnosis.
Yeah, it was the end of 2012, October when he first got diagnosed, and then it exploded into the press around November, December 2012, and then Neon was having the treatment from January. Well, he had surgery back in straight away in October. And then, yeah, it was all about the treatment because it was completely successful surgery. He had a full resection, which was wonderful news. And I just never understood why he needed that radiotherapy and mop-up chemo as a preventative. And that really is the nub of the story and what got lost in the news when they covered it. They just didn't want to acknowledge that, you know, what they were doing was a preventative measure. And I just thought that there was kinder ways to do a mop-up, especially on a 7-year-old boy.
So tell us about the diagnosis. What was Neon's diagnosis, Sally?
Medulloblastoma. It's a brain tumour which affects 1 in a million. And Neon it was the size of a golf ball right in his cerebellum, which is just back here, just above the neck, right bang in the middle. And they managed to get the whole thing out. And yes, leading up to the diagnosis, he had a wry neck, headaches, double vision, and I was going through a breakup at the time, marriage breakdown, and it all happened at the same time, moving home, the diagnosis. Yes, that's why I've written a book about it, because it was just such a surreal situation I found myself in, and writing really helped me through that.
And your book is called The Treatment.
Yes, First Do No Harm.
First Do No Harm, exactly. I think that that should be brought to the fore these days. First Do No Harm. So the book is available on Amazon, Waterstones bookstore.
Yes.
Your website, sallyjroberts.com. So listeners can get a copy of that. But it's not just the story of the treatment. There's lots more to it. So talk us through, Sally. What was your objection to having the chemo and the radiation for Neon?
My main objection for having the radiotherapy mainly was because he would never completely recover from it. It was going to do more harm than good. That's plain and simple. It's a harmful treatment, and what they were how they wanted to go about it was within 42 days of having the initial surgery, and I felt that it was just because it was protocol, because it's such a rare happening. I really felt what they were doing, they just didn't really know what they were doing, and it was just a protocol that they followed, an umbrella treatment, and I wanted more for Neon, so I searched in the countries that had the higher success rates, and that I was led to Germany and America, which were at the forefront. And the reason they're so good, especially Germany, is because of the integrative approach they have to treating cancer. It's not just, for better words, cut, burn and poison. It's, you know, they boost the immune system, and the doctors don't even acknowledge the immune system here, and that's just really catastrophic. It's, it's shameful, really.
I never understood why doctors, well, I'm beginning to understand now why doctors don't have any nutrition training in the 5 or so years of their medical school. It's all about learning to cut, burn and poison us. And when you talk about diet and nutrition, they haven't got a clue, not a clue. Apparently there is now an element of nutrition in their training, but it's voluntary. So how doctors can ignore nutrition when we know that diabetes even can be reversed in 30 days by the right diet, the right nutrition in your body. And we know that if you fill your body with the right nutrients and give it the right environment, it will heal itself. So obviously every now and then there's this, you know, rogue, you know, tumours do appear. There's ways of dealing with them, and the idea is not to get ill in the first place. So does anybody know, has anybody told you, you know, why was neon 1 in a million? Was there anything that kind of created it? Is there any explanation you've had for that?
Really, no, I've obviously, I discuss it in the book, what I think it could possibly be, but there, you know, it's plucking things out of thin air, and really was no answer, no. But yes, I think diet certainly has an impact, and you know, we all know that you and I know that sugar feeds cancer, but the doctors don't acknowledge that. In fact, when Neon was in hospital, all they wanted to do was feed him sugar, and not just sugar, aspartame. You know, the synthetic sweetener that they put in all the medicines and whatnot, especially for children, because they're taking that, you know, that pink Calpol left, right, and centre, especially if you've had a brain tumour removed, and you don't want to keep taking the hard stuff. Yeah, no, they really lack training, and that's what it all comes down to. And it's horrible because people think, oh, well, the doctors know best. But and if there was a way that was, the doctor would know it. But what a lot of people don't realise is that the doctors simply aren't trained in that. And it really is. It's not good. It's not good enough. And I can't believe we're at this point where we still accept it, that it's okay, because it's not.
No, it's not okay. Absolutely not okay.
It's so out of balance. You know, we need to bring the balance back. I'm not saying all conventional, because conventional is wonderful. You know, it saves lives in some aspects, but it's just the balance is completely gone, and they just got a stranglehold, and and it's yeah, it's not good.
Integrative approach, as you say, I think is definitely the best, because then when you have a good balance, and only you will know what that good balance is. So many people don't listen to their body, and they ignore the signs, but your body tells you what's wrong. And you know, there's no excuse now for not knowing what to do, because with the internet, the research is so easy to do. But unfortunately, a lot of the research is tainted as well, because it's all biased towards big pharma. Or take this drug, take that drug, rub this cream on, and creams don't normally help the situation. They just suppress whatever's popping out of the skin. So yeah, I'm always saying to people, do your research, but look in places. You know, we've now got different search engines. DuckDuckGo is the one that I use now.
Yeah, I use that now.
Yeah, because you're getting more true things, and instead of YouTube, BitChute, I tend to go to there. And again, there's lots more video platforms. I'm actually just having my own creatives, so I'm going to be doing these interviews on my own TV platform shortly. So that's going to be very exciting. So I won't have to be, you know, reliant on YouTube and so on. So getting back to so he had this diagnosis, he had surgery, and the surgery was really successful. And again, that's an example of medical training being really good.
Surgery, can be life-saving, and in that example, I think it was definitely, and that's when I thought it was, because he'd had such successful surgery. I was, you think that you're on the other side of it,
yeah,
and then they want to take him into the and do all of that horrible treatment, which was like from the dark ages.
So you came to the fore in the press. You were all over the national papers because you kind of went into hiding. You weren't allowing this treatment. You didn't want this treatment to go ahead. So talk us through what happened then during that time.
I absconded with Neon because the NHS, as I said before, within 42 days they wanted to have him on the starting block. And because oh sorry, I've got within 42 days I had to have him on the starting block. So can you repeat the question? I got completely lost there. I was just
I was asking what happened. So you became famous overnight because you had absconded with Neon. So what led you to sort of run away with him, going to hiding?
They weren't supplying me with what I needed. I was asking for things from the NHS and they weren't giving it to me. So I went in hiding with Neon briefly, and I took him to a friend who had a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, and I was seeking out other alternatives overseas. So I was looking towards Germany. I actually sent emails out to about 30 different cancer centres worldwide to have him treated elsewhere. And unfortunately, when it got to court, they wouldn't allow that.
Why did it get to court stage? What had the court got to do with anything?
I know. Neon was made a ward of court because I objected, and that wasn't acceptable to them. They have a way of treating. It was their protocol, and that was that. There was just, I think they weren't used to someone questioning it. But I'd done a lot of research, and I was just 100% sure it wasn't the right treatment for Neon. So
he was made a ward of court. In other words, they took control of your child. I mean, that must have been absolutely horrendous. I just can't imagine how awful that must have been for you.
It was horrendous because the way they did it as well, they took him away in the middle of the night. They found where we were within a few days. Someone definitely told them, and they took us because the police had been told that there was a very sick child, and so they came and found us and took us straight to the hospital. And then the hospital did a full check up of Neon, and within 2 hours he was discharged, as couldn't find anything wrong with him. So at that point, that's when it got really bad, because that's when they got social services involved, and they wouldn't let me go with him. And that's, as I say, that's when it got really bad. I can't explain how horrific that was, obviously, as a mother. And at that point, Neon and I had been through so much anyway. I mean, just even having your 7-year-old son diagnosed in the first place, you know what that's like. It's a very dark place. And then to have the successful surgery, and then, so within 42 days, it was around just before 42 days it ended up, because I thought in my mind, okay, if I can get to 42 days, and they're telling me that Neon, that the worst would happen. But if I get past that 42 days and there's nothing wrong, then there's no reason to treat him. Mm. And I had asked for what I thought any sensible mother or person going through this treatment would ask for. I asked for the evidence that what they were telling me was the case. And I wanted to see the studies. Show me the studies, you know, of having had the treatment and evidence that it actually works. Of course, they couldn't produce it. They produced one study, only one. It was laughable. And it was from the 1940s, and it involved 17 children. And as we know, surgery wouldn't have been very good back then, would it?
No.
They probably mostly died from the surgery. So yeah, they didn't have a leg to stand on, and I was asking question after question, and I just found them like they really didn't know what they were doing. And so that's why I was searching elsewhere.
Okay, so did he end up having this awful treatment?
Oh yeah, no, the court, once it got into court, it became theatrical, and it became, I was just made an example of, I was scapegoated, I was made out as a irresponsible monster, and the press loved it, and I didn't recognize who and what they were, you know, this person that they made me into. It was just, you know, it was based on truth, but then what their whole sensationalized story that they told was which is why I wrote a book. So far from the truth.
So was Neon living with you? He was the ward of court, but was he still living with you?
Well, luckily, the father went along. I say luckily for Neon, because otherwise, if Ben hadn't gone along with the treatment, Neon would have been had put into social services. You know, medical kidnapping. We know it happens all the time. So yeah, he was with Ben throughout treatment for the whole treatment, which was over a year.
Gosh. So were you able to still keep in contact with Neon during this time? I mean, did you see him regularly?
I'd love to say regularly, but it wasn't as regular as I would have liked it. Electra was with me, but Neon was going through the harshest of all treatments, and honestly, he went from a healthy little boy looking like a normal little boy to a grey old man. It was, you know, he had no energy, he was hiding away, he just wanted to build dens around himself. It was just so sad, Elaine.
So how did that affect you, Sally? Because I mean, not having your son for a year is bad enough, but going through treatment and so on, I mean, your own health, how did you keep yourself going and some kind of normality for Electra?
Oh, super smoothies. I was having loads of maca. No, I just, yeah, it was hard. It was hard, but I had this bird's eye view of it, of what was happening, and I tried to still feel grateful. You know, he was still alive, and yeah, I had Electra. So and luckily I don't have a depressive nature. There are people around me who I know who have depression, but I'm so lucky I don't suffer from depression at all. So I really just tried to not feel sorry for myself and find what I was actually learning from it. You know, well, why is this? Okay, so you ask yourself, why is this happening to me? But yeah, tried to have the why. What am I actually learning from this? This has got to be happening for a reason, for goodness sake. You know, why? Maybe I signed up for it. On some level.
Do you know now what the reason was that you were put through that, you individually, but also as a family?
Probably because on some level, I guess, yes, it didn't break me. But if you do get round to reading my book, you will see that the Ben and his family, if anyone, they were the ones that were trying to break me, what they put me through. But No, sorry, what was the actual question again? My mind goes into sparks, and I go in so many directions, and it's like, oh God, where am I?
And then there's probably several answers that you could give as well
Yeah, that's
whenever
right.
people ask you questions. So,
Yeah.
you I know you were interested when we met all those years ago. You were interested in natural health and well-being,
Mm.
obviously, which is why, as a mother, you knew that there were alternatives and complementary things that could be used with neon. So you carried on studying. So tell us about your studies and where you're at now with your studying.
I've always been interested. That's my reading. I love reading about health. I've always done that ever since. It's I've always found myself reading Healing with Whole Foods is just nighttime reading or books like that. And so I did my herbalism course, in which I got a distinction, which I'm very happy with. And yeah, I guess I'm working towards being a health coach as I've got more time on my hands now. So yeah, just helping other people is, I think, what it's all about, isn't it? When you've been through something like that, and yeah, all the research I've done into foods but before we were talking about people, it's not what you necessarily, people want to know what I can do, what I can take, but often it's what not to take.
Yeah.
And people just want to pop this magic pill, but just maybe step back and drink more water is something so simple that so many people are dehydrated. And then they so it's a big subject, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It interests me so much, and
speaking from personal experience, I think is a great way to be a health coach, because you've got you've tried and tested, and you know what's what, either from your own experience or from somebody close to you, as in Neon's case. Yeah. And you make a very good point about it's what not to take. I've developed a process, a protocol with 2 health tests people can do at home, plus 2 online assessments, and then I bring the results of all that all together with the visual reports and the consultation. And very often it's me telling people to stop doing things. Stop drinking coffee as your first drink of the day. Stop drinking, Coke and Red Bull and these sort of things. Just water, just very simple things, but not tap, of course, because of the fluoride in it and other chemicals. Pure water, as natural as possible, everything as natural as possible, raw food. And people go, oh, raw food, that's disgusting. But actually, when you think about it, a lot of the food we have, we cook, but we could eat them, peppers, onions, garlic, basics like that, staples. That as you cook them, you're reducing the enzyme activity and the beneficial stuff that's in there. So yes, it's as much as what not to take. And so many people, I don't know if you feel the same, but so many people are now ramming supplements down their throat. And I've read that I should take this, or somebody says I should take that. How do you know what your body needs? How do you know if by taking these supplements you're creating more of an imbalance in your body? And I find that all the time with the health assessments now, most people are out of balance with the minerals, and it's not the minerals that you take, it's the balance of the minerals, so the calcium, the magnesium, the phosphorus, etc. If they're not in the right ratios, the right proportions, that does more damage than anything at all. And people don't realize that. Again, they're not educated, are they? We don't learn this at school, we don't learn this in the press.
Well, they're local supplements, a lot of them, and a lot of them just have that filler magnesium stearate in them, and which is synthetic, and they're just shoving them in, as I said before, wanting to take a pill, But as we were talking about before, it comes through food, your nutrients. So maybe do a juice, and rather than taking all that those supplements. And the body is an incredible thing, isn't it? You just got to give it what it needs and take away the crap that you're feeding it. And yeah, it actually is quite simple, isn't it?
It's very, very simple.
People
Yeah.
overcomplicate it, and you
Yeah.
want to drink their, oh God, Diet Coke or whatever. You just think, come on.
Yeah. And as you said earlier, sugar feeds cancer. And it sickens me when people are having chemotherapy. I had a teeny bit of chemotherapy for my stage 4 cancer 5 years ago. I had Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I beat it in 14 weeks, which is quicker than some people get to be diagnosed. So, and that's partly because of my resilient personality, you know, my strong character, but also because all the research that I'd done and, you know, been interested in health and well-being over 20 years before. But, you know, they come around with a trolley with Mars bars and you know, all the sugar snacks you can imagine, biscuits and goodness knows whatever. And people are sitting there all day long, hooked up to chemotherapy. The nurses are gowned up, you know, they can't even, you know, spill a teeny drop because it would, you know, it's so corrosive and horrible. And then in the next arm, they're shoving in all this sugar. You know, it doesn't make sense unless you know, and most people don't know.
They were doing that when Neil was in hospital. They would bring that trolley around daily. You know, Neil was 7 and he'd look at it, but I was just giving him raspberries and blueberries and healthier snacks. You know, just as healthy as you could be in hospital. But yeah, they do that, and even that how to feed your child cancer booklet. I don't know if you ever saw it.
No.
CCLG. Yeah, it had cookies on the front with all that sugary stuff, and it's embarrassing really the way they handle it.
Well, it's criminal. It's not just embarrassing, it's criminal because they're doing it on purpose. And the people that bring the trolleys around, they're volunteers and they think they're helping. Again, they're you know, they don't know. And there's lots of support out there. I mean, there's various different support organisations, and I don't support any of them because, you know, the first thing they do is give you tea and biscuits, you know, really. No, I used to run coffee mornings and all sorts to raise money before I knew better. But it's amazing the journey that we go on and the things we pick up. But as you say rightly, everything is very, very simple. Just learn what the body's all about, learn what it needs, and listen to your own body. So what are the learnings that you've taken from all of this this whole situation, Sally, about, you know, maybe about yourself and about health and well-being generally?
Stay positive. That's what people ask me more than anything is, how did you cope? And I think it's just by, if you're going to eat absolute crap all the time, then you're not going to feel very good, are you? But luckily I've always been eating a pretty healthy diet, and I'm not so big on juicing now. I'm more into smoothies, funny enough. But I used to be a big juicer, and I just think flooding your body with nutrients it really helps you, you know, lift your vibration, your frequency, and that's it. When all those trolls were having a go and sending their negativity, it's like a radio station, isn't it? I just didn't tune into it. I can see it going on like static.
Yes.
But it's just on a different frequency.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is. It's staying positive.
That's a great way to describe it, on the different frequencies. And we're on the health frequency. We're on the same radio show, aren't we? Same radio station.
Yeah, on the same station.
Brilliant. I can hear the dogs barking here. We've got 5 rescue dogs and 3 rescue cats here where I live. And they're all getting a bit excited out there. So I'm going to have to draw it to a close now, Sally. It's been lovely speaking with you.
Elaine.
And just to remind people where they can get hold of your book.
My book's available at on my website, sallyjroberts.com, and my self-publishing company, which is Matador, and all the places that books are available.
Brilliant. So Waterstones and bookstores when they reopen, and sallyjroberts.com. And Jo is getting quite vocal here, so I have to love and leave you. Thank you so much, Sally Roberts.
Been an absolute pleasure, Elaine. Thank you.
All right, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.